everyone, so for this series I'll be reading Grimm's fairy tales, and for this one I will be reading The Frog King. In old times, when wishing still helped one, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful. But the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which has seen so much was astonished whenever it shone on her face. Close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old lime tree in the forest was a well. And when the day was very warm, the king's child went out into the forest and sat down by the side of the cool fountain. When she was dull, she took a golden ball and threw it up high in the air and caught it. And this ball was her favorite plaything. Now it so happened that on this one occasion, the princess's golden ball did not fall into her little hands when she was holding out for it, but on the ground beyond and rolled straight into the water. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes, but it vanished, and the well was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. And she began to cry, and cried louder and louder, and could not be comforted. And she thus lamented. One said to her, "Wait, Alice, the king's daughter." And thus she lamented. Someone said to her, "Wait, what ails thee, king's daughter? Thou weepest so that even a stone would show pity." She looked up to the side where she winced as the voice came, and saw a frog stretching forth its thick, ugly head from the water. "Hey, old water splasher, is it thou?" she says. "I am weeping for my golden ball which has fallen in the well." "Be quiet and do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help thee, but what wilt thou give me if I bring the plaything up again?" "Whatever thou wilt have, my dear frog," she said. "My clothes, my pearls, my jewels, and even the golden crown which I am wearing." The frog answered, "I do not care for thy clothes, thy pearls, thy jewels, or thy golden crown. But if thou wilt love me and let me be thy companion and playfellow, I sit by thee at the table and eat off thy little golden plate, and drink out of thy little golden cup, and sleep in thy little bed. If thou wilt promise me this, I will go down below and bring up the golden ball up again." "Oh yes," she said, "I promise thee all thou wishes, and thou wilt but bring me my ball again." She, however, thought, "How the silly frog does talk! He lives in the water with other frogs, and croaks, and can be no companion to any human being." But the frog, when he received this promise, put his head into the water and sank down. In a short while came swimming up again with the ball in his mouth, and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was so delighted with her pretty plaything once more, and picked it up and ran away with it. "Wait, wait," the frog said. "Take me with thee. I cannot run as thou canst." But with that did not avail him to scream his croak after her as loudly as he could. She did not listen to it, but ran and soon forgot about the poor frog, who was forced to go back into the well again. The next day, when she had seated herself at the table with the king and the countess, and it was eating with her little golden plate. Something came creeping, splashing, splishing, splashing, splishing, splash up the marble staircase, and when it got to the top, it knocked on the door and cried, "Princess, young princess, open the door for me." She ran to see who was outside, but when she opened the door, there sat the frog in front of it. She slammed the door on it in a great haste, and sat down for dinner again, and was quite frightened. The king saw the plenty in her heart was beating violently, and said, "My child, what art thou afraid of? It is perished a great outside, and who wants to carry thee away?" "Ah, no," she replies, "it is no giant, but a disgusting frog." "What does the frog want with thee?" "Ah, my dear father, yes. Yesterday I was in the forest sitting by the well, playing. My golden ball fell into the water, and because I cried so the frog brought it out again for me. And because he insists so on it, I promised him he would be my company. But I never thought he would be able to come out of the water. And now he's outside there and wants to come in." In the meantime, it knocked a second time and cried, "Princess, young princess, open the door for me. Dost thou know what thou saidst to me yesterday by the cool waters of the fountain? Princess, young princess, open the door for me." And the king said, "Thou wishes thou hast promised must thou perform. Go, let him in." She went to the door and opened the door. The frog hopped in, followed her step by step to her chair, and he sat and cried, "Lift me up beside thee." She delayed until at last the king commanded her to do it. When the frog was once on the chair, he waited to be on top, wanted to be on the table. When he was on the table, now push thy golden plate nearer to me, that me want to eat together." She did this, but it was easy to see she didn't want to do it willingly. The frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she choked her. At length he said, "I have eaten, and I am shameful. Now I am tired. Carry me to thy little bedroom, and make me thy little silk bed ready, and we will both lie and go to sleep." The king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, which she did not like to touch, and which was now to sleep in her pretty clean bed. But the king grew angry and said, "He who helped thee when thou wert in trouble ought now afterwards to be despised by thee." She took hold of the frog with 2 fingers, carried him up the stairs, put him in the corner, but when she was in bed, he crept to her and said, I am tired. I want to sleep well as thou. Lift me up, and I will tell thy father." She was terribly angry, took him and threw him with all her might against the wall. "Now thou wilt speak quiet, odorous frog," she said. And when he fell down, he was no frog, but the king's son, with beautiful kind eyes. By the father's will was now dear companion and husband. But he told her how he had been bewitched by a wicked witch, and how no one could have delivered him from the well but herself. And tomorrow they would be together into his kingdom. Then they went to sleep. The next morning the sun awoke them. A carriage came driving up with 8 white horses, which had white ostrich feathers and on their heads, and with harness and golden chains, and behind stood a young king's servant, faithful Henry. Faithful Henry had been so unhappy when his master had changed into a frog that he had cursed the iron brands to be laid around his heart, lest it should be burst into grief and sadness. Courage was to conduct the young king into his kingdom. Faithful Henry helped them both in and placed himself behind again, fully of joy because of the deliverance. And when they had been driven part way, the king's son heard a crackling behind him, as if something had broken. So he turned around and cried, "Henry's carriage is breaking." "No matter. It's not a carriage. It is a brand from my heart, which was put there by the great pain of when you were turned into frog imprisoned in the well." Once again, while they were on their way, something cracked. Each time the king's son thought the carriage was breaking, but it was only the brands from which the springs from the heart of faithful Henry, because his master was set free and happy.